digitally. Use demos, showcases, again, very show and tell. And you invite the customers, you invite their stakeholders, their teams, and the customers, customer representatives, proxy customers, all of them into the room. You actually showcase, or perhaps you can have an online session where you share the screen. You actually let them have a play around with this particular website, the web application, the product, and they could give the feedback then and there instead of actually waiting for 2 years like in the waterfall. So that's the beauty of Agile. So you actually get the early visibility of the product from the customer to the customers. They give the feedback early as well. So you can quickly course correct your change. That's why the changes could come from the customers immediately. And then you are accepting the changes, right? You're accepting the changes, the defects that the customer would report on your product after 3 weeks. You accept the change, you work on that quickly, because you know that if you keep it like this, the defect for that, it could grow from a cub to a tiger, as I say. So don't let the defects and the bugs remain. So you work on that. You actually fix the defects. You work on the changes, and you try and incorporate the functionality as quickly as possible. Be nimble, embrace and adapt change. Again, this is what we were discussing, that we should be nimble. We should be ready to accept change from wherever it is coming from. In fact, there was a saying I quite like in one of the Hindu Rigveda. It's called Rigveda, which was the ancient scriptures, about a good few thousand-year-old scripture. It talks about, one of the things that it talks about is the fundamental thing that I always keep in my mind, in my life, and in my career. It says, the literal translation of that is basically, it says, let truth and good come from all sides. So that's that simple saying of that Rigveda, that one particular scripture from I think one of the Upanishads in this Rigveda, written about 6,000, 7,000 years old. It talks about truth and good. Whether if there's something that is true, if it is something that is good, then accept it, embrace it, and let it come from any side. Let it come from a small boy, or let it come from somebody who you don't know. Let it come from your enemy. Let it come from some other completely different country, different continent. Doesn't matter. Embrace it because it is good. It is true. So embrace it, and then adapt yourself. So that's the beauty of this. And the same thing, if there is a change that is coming in from the customer, from your own team, from your competitor, from the market force, fair enough, accept it. Take the change in, chuck it into the backlog, prioritize it. If it is really urgent, very important, very urgent, work on it in the next sprint, and then deliver, right? So you're actually accepting yourself to be more flexible, more agile, more nimble, and that would be the only way to be heading up as a leadership. And that's why I was telling you about the example. I think that was about a good few weeks ago. We were talking about IBM. IBM was the International Business Machines. For about a good 100, 150 years, IBM has been the leader in computers, in machinery, in all these fantastic, big, huge machines. And that's where the term called IBM, International Business Machines. They were the first ones to come up with that, big computers that filled up the rooms, to a PC that is just on the desk. It's called PC, which was first invention of IBM, personal computer. So IBM had been at this business for a good 150 years. And then one fine day they said that, enough of it. We don't want to be in this space. It's not good for us. We need to move on. So they actually sold off the whole of the hardware business, the complete hardware business. They just sold off the entire business to Lenovo, a Chinese-based company, a China-based company. And then they started off only focused on the services. And that's why the IBM Global Services came into picture, IGS. And they've been doing pretty well. And compare that to, for example, a company which is which was into the Kodak, for example. Kodak was, and then there were so many other things. Polaroid, Kodak, which was producing the film rolls and the cameras for the not the non-digital photography about a good few years ago. It was the leader in that segment for a good few years, good decades. Kodak was coming up with fantastic, faster, more quicker capturing, film rolls and things like that. But they just died, sudden death one day in the last, I think that was about 2 years ago, they declared bankrupt and they just closed. Why? Because they were not able to adapt to the change. They were not able to adapt to the digital ways of working, come up with a digital photography, or even work with other competitors, work with the phones and give them better lenses. They didn't do that. They just were focusing on making better and better film rolls, which are of no use now. So they had to, because they're not nimble, they're not adaptive. Whereas IBM realized that it doesn't matter how heavy you are, how big you are, how fantastic you are. It doesn't matter. What matters is how nimble you are, how flexible you are with the changing times. And so they actually turned themselves to be profitable because they realized that they need to be more aligned to